Lewis Hamilton stopped using Ferrari simulator, not because he was told to, and not because it was broke. He just stopped. Pulled back from the process everyone said was the thing that would make him better. And a couple of races later, he's back on the podium. Somewhere in your business there's a simulator. Something you're doing religiously, working hard at, showing up for. Something the experts told you was the answer. And if you're honest, it's not correlating with the performance the way it should. That's what this is about. Now, when Hamilton arrived at Ferrari, he did everything right. He went to the factory every week. He worked with the engineers. He got inside the system, learned it on its own terms, tried to understand it from the inside out. He committed to the process the way you commit to something when you know your reputation's on the line and you can't afford to get it wrong. And his performance got worse. Now here's the thing most people get wrong about this story. They read it as Ferrari being a bad team, or Hamilton being past his best, or the car being fundamentally flawed. Those are surface readings, the ones that lets everyone off the hook. The real story is about what happens when world-class operators stop trusting the thing that actually made them world-class in the first place. And it happens more quietly and more completely than anyone involved usually realises. You see, 20 years of racing builds something that doesn't have a name. It's not technical knowledge, although that's part of it. It's not experience, although that's part of it too. It's something more like encoded judgment. The feel for when the car is on the limit versus approaching it. The instinct that tells you the corner is slower before the data confirms it. The accumulated pattern recognition of 10,000 decisions made at 200 miles an hour under pressure with consequences. Hamilton has that in quantities that genuinely are exceptional. When he arrived at Ferrari and threw himself into their system, he gradually stopped accessing that. Not consciously, not all at once. He started deferring to the processes rather than to what he already knew. The data over the feel, the engineer's read over his own, the system over the judgment that the system was supposed to support. That's a subtle shift. From the outside, it looks like diligence. It looks like professionalism. It looks exactly like what you'd want to see from someone who just joined a new organisation and was trying to earn trust. The problem is that diligence and deference aren't the same thing. And when someone at Hamilton's level starts deferring where they should be leading, the performance gap shows up immediately. The simulator wasn't wrong. The engineers weren't wrong. The system wasn't wrong. It just wasn't his competitive advantage. And for a while, he forgot that. Now, you have your own version of this. The consultancy framework you brought in 18 months ago. The leadership program someone recommended at a conference and you signed 3 of your team up for. The management system that worked brilliantly for someone else in your sector and came with a compelling case study. The process you adopted because people you respected said it was the answer, and you've been working it hard, genuinely, showing up for it, investing in it, giving it a real chance. You're not half-hearted about it, doing the thing properly. It's not saying any of those things are wrong. Most of them probably aren't. They have real value. But I want you to ask yourself a very specific question. Not whether the process is good in the abstract, whether it's the source of your competitive advantage, whether the thing that drives real performance, the performance that your clients notice, the performance your best people follow, the performance that got you to where you are, lives inside the process or outside it. Because there's a version of this where the process is genuinely useful and you're using it well. And there's another version where the process has quietly become the thing you defer to when you should be trusting something older and more reliable. And from the inside, those two versions can feel almost identical. That's what makes it hard to see. Every founder I work with has an invisible infrastructure. It's the way they read a room before anyone else in it knows what's happening. The instinct for when a hire is going to compound the business or quietly cost it. The feel for market timing that they can't fully articulate, but that's been right far more often than wrong. The particular way they build trust with the client who matters most, in the way that no onboarding document or sales process could replicate. The thing they do in the room that turns a difficult conversation into a decision. That infrastructure was built through years of decision failures, recovers, and pattern recognition. It was built specifically by them, in their market, with their people, through the particular sequence of things going right and wrong. It's proprietary in a way that no framework can be, because no framework was built through their experience. It's the thing that got them to where they are. And a lot of founders stop trusting it, not because it stops working, because success starts attracting systems, and the systems gradually become the primary language of the business. Strategy reviews, scorecards, and other operating rhythms. None of these things are bad, but they can slowly replace the things that were actually driving performance while looking like they're measuring it. The moment Hamilton pulled back from the simulator wasn't abandoning process. He was recalibrating the relationship between external process and internal judgment. He was remembering what the tools were for, to support the things that he already had, not replace them. And that distinction, as obvious as it sounds when you say it out loud, is one of the hardest things to hold on to when you're inside a high pressure system that's telling you the process is the answer. The question isn't whether you have a framework and a system or an external input. Of course you should. The question is whether you're using them to amplify your judgment or substitute for it. Whether you're the author of the process or whether the process has become the author of you. The founders who get this right aren't the ones who reject structure. They're the ones who remain the decision makers inside it, who bring in external input, then filter it through everything they already know to be true, who can sit in a strategy session, hear the framework, absorb the data, and then make a call that comes from somewhere deeper than any of that, who use a simulator and then trust themselves to drive. That's not arrogance. That's actually what you're paying for when you hire someone who's done this for over 20 years. The judgment, not the compliance. Hamilton stopped using the simulator. A couple of races later, he's back on the podium. The formula didn't change, car didn't change, the engineers didn't change. He just remembered what his actual competitive advantage was, and he started trusting it again. That's available to you. The question is whether or not you know where your simulator is, whether you can identify the process you're inside right now that's consuming your energy and your attention without actually connecting you to real performance. Whether you're willing to step back from it long enough to find out what happens when you do. Most people aren't, because stepping back feels like giving up, and giving up feels like failure, and no one who built something serious wants to carry that. Hamilton didn't give up. He got honest about what was working and what wasn't. That's a different thing entirely. If you've just identified your simulator, you know exactly what it is, and you know it's not the thing that's actually winning races, that's the starting point. That's what we work through on this channel, so subscribe. And if you want to work through your business, that's what I do with founders. Click the link below and I'll see you next time.